What's going on, everybody? It's LightningSnow back today with another video, and as I said in my previous video, I'm doing a what if. It's been a while, so I'm just finally getting right back around to these what ifs. I know y'all been requesting them a lot, so with me today I have my guest DygoKnight. Go ahead and say hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
So obviously you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we're talking about what if Kakashi had joined the Akatsuki. It's a pretty interesting idea. A lot of people have been asking for it, and there's not a whole lot of it on YouTube. I've seen a couple of other videos from other people doing this story, so I thought I'd just put my own story on it. And yeah, so the timeline of when he would join is, like, me and Daigo kind of agree that it would probably be right after he kills Reed. Would you agree?
I think that's the most likely place. It's the lowest point in his life, so to speak. So that would be when he would be more vulnerable to Madara's, machinations.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, like if Obito decided to, start the story off, Kakashi, he was lost just about everything up at this point. He kills Rin, and let's just say, Kakashi passes out like he did in the series, but Obito decides not to just leave him there, but to bring him back with him to meet Madara. And this would be where, Madara sweet talks, so to speak, Kakashi into helping Obito, perform the infinite Tsukiyomi, or complete the infinite Tsukiyomi. And, I mentioned this to Daigo the time before we did this recording, is that, like, Obito and Kakashi training each other to use their Mangekyo Sharingan, like Kakashi might awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan a lot earlier than what he had already done in the main, perfected it, not so much unlocking, because he already unlocked it by killing Rain, but he might perfect the Mangekyo Sharingan and Kamui a lot earlier than he did in the main series, just by training.
I get the feeling he didn't even know he had the Mangekyo up until Shippuden, because he never seemed to even mention it in part 1 or anything, and then Shippuden comes around and he says, "Oh, I have a new ability, by the way."
That's how I always.
So I think he kind of discovered it during the time skip.
Like, he just somehow discovered it during the 3-year time skip. So.
Probably after seeing Itachi using his Mangekyo against him, it's like, oh, maybe I have that thing too.
I don't know. I can see that. So yeah, I mean, like we said, like, Obito and Kakashi training each other, and I mean, Kakashi was already a beast of a Jonin, even as a kid. So, like, him being
and Obito too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Obito too. Obito literally went toe to toe with, like, so many platoons of, like, Mist Village Ninja, just, like, completely just wiped the floor.
And then he fought Minato 1-on-1 too, which is not a small feat, even though he lost, but still.
He did a lot better than what most people would do. So
yeah.
So, a few years go by, and the Nine Tails attack happens the same way it did in the main series, except that Obito has a partner with them. So me and Daigo discussed this last time, and we kind of, like, agreed that while Obito goes after Minato, Kakashi would probably go with the Nine Tails to assist in, destroying the village and taking on Hiruzen and whoever it is. The thing is, like, Kakashi, in my opinion, would probably stay hidden just on the off chance that he might be able to Kamui Hiruzen from afar while Hiruzen is distracted from the Nine Tails destruction. And the thing is honestly, this might be giving too much credit to Kakashi, but even if Hiruzen spots him, I think there's a good chance that, given the power of Kamui and depending on how good he is with Kamui, that he still might be able to take on Hiruzen, even at that age. I know Hiruzen's like a god of Shinobi, but Kamui is still ridiculous. It's still a one-shot, and Hiruzen really doesn't have much, ways of countering it, especially if he doesn't even know what Kamui is. So, I mean, what would you say, Daigo? Does that seem like, what would you say in, like, a 1v1 hypothetical in this specific scenario?
Well, in this situation, I think Hiruzen would be very distracted by the Nine Tails just rampaging through the village, and it's definitely the advantage Kakashi will have. But there's also one thing. I think that as Obito / Madara had access to essentially infinite Hashirama cells, and it is implied that that's why Obito's Kamui and Obito's Mangekyo was so much more durable. You know, he didn't go blind at all, even though he spammed it during the entire series. It's probably because he was half Hashirama cells, since he got crushed by the rock. And I think they would definitely inject some of those into Kakashi's system, just to make sure he is more powerful and he can handle the Mangekyo better. So I can see his Kamui being even superior to the one he showed in Shippuden at that point, especially because, as we mentioned before, he can train with Obito as well.
Now, that is...
Well, there's a chance he kills Hiruzen, I would say, here.
Yeah, well, and just in case there are, like, nitpickers out there, we are giving the assumption that, you know, Kakashi would survive the injection of Hashirama cells, because I know there's, like, a whole thing that, like, Orochimaru did a whole bunch of experiments on, like, little children and whatnot, and different adults, and Chunin and Jonin. And,
oh,
like,
yeah.
They
Well, you have to survive that, but...
I mean...
The main characters always survive that.
Exactly. We're talking about plot armor here, so yeah, we'll just go in and like rush through that. Kakashi survives the experiment and yada yada yada. And so yeah, that's a good point you bring up, and I think that would definitely help. And I mean, I you know, 1v1, I'd like, if let's say like they're in a separate, you know, area aside, like completely away from the Nine Tails, and it was kind of like similar to how Obito was 1v1 Minato. I'm not saying that Hiruzen still wouldn't win, but I mean, it's still Kamui, and Kakashi's already still, you know, a really skilled ninja on his own right, even as a young kid. But I am willing to concede that, like, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to Kamui Hiruzen and during the Nine Tails attack, and like while Hiruzen's trying to deal with the Nine Tails. So
yeah, for sure.
So going on to the Obito scenario, that would play out the same way it did. You know, Minato, you know, slams Obito and essentially forces Obito to retreat, and you know the Nine Tails gets separated from him. You know, Naruto's born, sealed away, yada yada yada. So Obito and Kakashi would likely retreat to the cave, and this is where like kind of like the cutoff was last time, because me and Daigo agreed that like, because obviously if stuff goes down in the main series, if in this scenario the same way they did the main series, then Obito's going to have a flying Raiji mark on Obito. And so...
Yeah, that's a huge problem for him if Minato survives. But we can assume that Minato will probably die, you know, because he's sealing the Nine Tails into Naruto. I don't see him changing his mind too much unless Hiruzen is killed by Kakashi.
True. Yes, that's right. That was what we agreed on. Yeah. If Hiruzen is dead, then Minato's going to have to, because, I mean, there's going to be nobody around to protect Naruto. And yeah, y'all can make all the jokes you want about Hiruzen being a crappy protector and Hokage about Naruto, but like legit, like Minato trusted that somebody would be around to at least, you know, make sure that Naruto didn't get kidnapped. So...
And then he would probably not seal the Nine Tails in Naruto and just outright kill it, you know? Because he also had to remain in the village as a powerful Hokage. Because if Hiruzen died, they would be, you know, just without a Hokage essentially, and they would be at a very tough spot. Especially now that Minato knows that there's essentially Madara is alive and around, because Minato assumed Obito was Madara when they were fighting. That's a big deal.
God forbid, freaking they get Orochimaru in the Hokage seat.
Yeah.
And so, like, what I think what would happen is, like I said, Minato might wait a couple days and, you know, try to recuperate and make sure all the affairs are in order. And, you know, one of two things is going to happen. Either Minato brings a couple of other skilled shinobi, like, say, Jiraiya, it'd be Fugaku.
And that's the scenario where Hiruzen dies and Minato doesn't seal the Nine Tails, right? Just kills it.
Right.
There you go.
So let's say, like, you know, honestly, this is the scenario, but because we were thinking of like all the shinobi that like Minato might want to bring, like, you know, to Jiraiya, you know, maybe some other skill.
Fugaku.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. We agreed that honestly, it'd probably just take Fugaku and Minato to get the job done.
Yeah.
As strong as Kakashi is, even at this point, I mean, Fugaku's supposed to be like, is, you know, I guess rumored to be on the same level as Minato, if just below.
Not on the same level, but like relative, at least, like a quote-unquote a rival. Not as powerful as him, but still not a joke.
Yeah, like he'd be like right below, maybe a couple pegs below Minato. And so like strong enough, I think, to deal with Kakashi, even with all his combo nonsense. And like they would probably, I mean, I would argue Minato could probably do it, 1v2 if I'm going to be frank.
See that. I don't think he would have much of an issue against the two of them, especially because he knows how to counter Obito's Kamui now, and I think his Kamui is trickier because Minato could just teleport away from Kakashi's Kamui sniping anyway. It wouldn't be a huge issue for him, I think.
Well, I mean, heck, he already has a mark on Obito, so, I mean, if Kakashi attempts to Kamui Minato, he can teleport right to Obito and splits him. And so, and the thing is, Obito would not be ready for that. Well, I mean, he probably would after Minato teleports to their location, but Obito would probably wonder how he did that, because
Obito, for the initial teleport where Obito is, he would definitely, Minato would catch him off guard for sure, because he didn't know that the flying Raijin mark stayed forever.
Yeah, exactly. Which is odd if you think about it. But I mean, it goes like how many years and not notices.
I guess it doesn't really show after some point. I guess it just disappears. Because it is kind of odd if you think about it. Like, well, how didn't you notice this pretty big mark?
I'm about to say, it's all around you. It's like someone would have noticed it by now. but yeah. So I mean, I at that point, I mean, again, as strong and as skilled as Minato and I mean Obito and Kakashi are. Plus, Obito would probably still be recovering.
Oh yeah, he got pretty beaten up. He lost an arm and he got hit by the Rasengan, and then Minato. Not a lot of people notice this, but Minato, when he goes and uses his sealing to undo the connection with the Nine Tails, he actually stabs Obito with a kunai again, which is nasty,
Well, and that's the thing too, like when Minato won against Obito, like himself, like just Obito, like Minato wasn't really fatigued at all. Like he wasn't like...
No, he was just fine.
Yeah, so I'm like, you're going to be going up against a full-powered Minato while you're still kind of recovering, and assuming that Kakashi... I mean, assuming Kakashi doesn't get like injured, but he'll probably still be a little bit worn out from having to use Kamui anyway. So yeah, like again, it may not even take Fugaku coming with them, but I mean, it might just help anyway for Fugaku to come. Minato asking Fugaku like, "Hey, I'll need your help just to make sure this Madara situation is being dealt with." So it acts as a gesture of good faith to kind of like bury the hatchet between the Uchiha and the Leaf administration. So yeah, I mean, it might just stop with Minato.
Do you think Minato kills them? Do you think if he notices he's fighting Obito and Kakashi, do you think he kills them, or he tries to just imprison them or something?
I would assume he probably would try to reason with them, but I'm gonna be honest. Like, I mean, the only one that I could see like being reasoned with is Kakashi, because Obito was kind of already well, maybe not at that time. I was gonna say like, I mean, Obito, I feel like came to a point in his life sometime between the Nine Tails attack and when we see him in the Orange Bass days that he was probably too far into everything to turn back. So like Obito would probably still be the Cynic and decide to keep going on with the Eye of the Moon plan. Kakashi's a little bit more up in the air, but assuming that like both Obito and Madara have been able to persuade him, it's
though there's the when Minato just found out that he was fighting Obito back then during the war, he had this thought that he was like, oh man, if I'd known I was fighting Obito back then, I could have changed things. I could have actually, convinced him not to really mess things up. So there's this implication that if maybe Minato noticed he was fighting Obito back then, he would have actually turned him back, but it's very up in the air.
Actually, it's a good point you bring up. And it honestly, it just coincides with what we're talking about. Like it still ends with Minato one way or the other, if that is the case. So like whether he kills them outright or, talk no jutsus them both, whether or not he has to take them back to the village or not. So you got a point. and it might end that way. And so either way, it stops with Minato. So
yeah, either way, Minato quote unquote wins and saves the ninja world from the Akatsuki and all that. If that's the scenario, so Hiruzen's death saved the world. Hiruzen's a hero now.
Yeah, I know, right? Finally,
for the haters.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So this is where we're gonna like quote unquote end the topic or the video, because we're wanting to save this for a part 2, and part 2 would be, because we did this last time too, like we attempted to do this last time, and so this is what we're gonna do, is that part 2 will be what if Hiruzen lived. So it'll still be what if Kakashi joined the Akatsuki, but it'll be like, it's again part 2, continued series, whatever you want to call it.
Altering the scenario if Hiruzen had, essentially if the same thing had happened during the Nine Tails attack as in the original, like Minato dies and Hiruzen survives and becomes a third Hokage.
Right. Because I want to do those kind of both scenarios. I think it's interesting to think about both one way or the other, but I also didn't want this video being too long. So like I said, I think y'all will enjoy a part 2 anyway. So yeah, that's where we're gonna cut it off, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you, DygoKnight, for being on the channel.
Thanks for having me.
I will leave a link for his channel in the description below. Please go check him out. Give a like and subscribe. He makes a lot of great Naruto content. It's amazing. I watch all the videos. Trust me, guys. It's great versus battle videos. Look forward to part 2. The next video I do, though, will probably be a versus battle video. But so just look forward to that. And until my next video, LightningSnow, out.